funky colors. Shapes that swing.
It's impossible.
Game of level being seen, and it is virtually.
In today's What the Fuck news, Texas is experiencing a measles outbreak because apparently some parents decided that medieval diseases are making a comeback this season. 9 counties are watching measles spread faster than misinformation on Facebook, with 146 cases, 116 kids under 18 in total, and only 5 were vaccinated. Health Director Catherine Wells sees no end in sight, though some vaccine-hesitant parents are finally getting the message. Yesterday, 50 children got vaccinated in Lubbock alone, including 11 who previously had exemptions. Meanwhile, Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., is eager to swap out vaccines for brain worms he picked up from a bear carcass in Central Park. Just remember, folks, this is what happens when the no child left behind generation becomes parents.
Hey, Measles! How are you? Congrats on your comeback. Oh my God, you came out and, well, the signs were there. Anyway, what are you going to get anti-vaxxers for like a thank you gift? Just one.
The GOP has truly outdone themselves in the art of political comedy by rickrolling the nation, while everyone waited with bated breath for the release of the Epstein Files. Because nothing says we take serious criminal investigations seriously, quite like redirecting people to Rick Astley's 1987 hit song. The anticipation had been building for years, with speculation swirling about who might appear in Jeffrey Epstein's infamous Black Book. When the GOP's official Twitter account teased a major revelation with their dramatic Breaking Epstein Files released post, complete with a tiny URL link, people naturally assumed they were about to witness a pivotal moment in this ongoing saga. Instead, they got serenaded by everyone's favorite 80s pop star promising never to give them up or let them down. The timing of this juvenile prank couldn't have been more inappropriate, considering Attorney General Pam Bondi had just confirmed the existence of substantial evidence, including flight logs, names, and information about more than 250 victims. Bondi didn't mince words when describing the contents as pretty sick, which makes the GOP's attempt at humor all the more jarring. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who heads the task force on the declassification of federal secrets, was particularly unimpressed when she discovered that the actual released documents amounted to little more than Epstein's phone book. She took to social media to express her frustration in all caps, declaring, "This is not what we or the American people asked for," and demanding the real information they had requested. It's worth noting that neither Luna nor her task force had been given access to review these documents before their release. The social media response was swift and appropriately critical. Users pointed out the gross insensitivity of making light of child trafficking, with one stating, "I absolutely love a good Rick Roll, but when discussing the child sex trafficked and their ruined lives, this is not the time." Others questioned whether the account had been hacked, because surely no professional political organization would intentionally make such a tasteless joke about such a serious matter. Adding another layer to this political circus is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's cryptic assertion that the Epstein list is going to be released and much more is coming. She spoke of a war raging within and praised the work of Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, though what exactly this war entails remains unclear. The Epstein case has long been a source of intense public interest, particularly given his connections to numerous powerful figures. Former President Trump's relationship with Epstein has been especially scrutinized given Trump's 2002 quote describing Epstein as a terrific guy. Of course, Trump later attempted to distance himself from these comments, claiming they had a falling out years before Epstein's 2019 arrest and subsequent death in a Manhattan jail cell. While the Justice Department continues to promise forthcoming disclosures, many worry that heavy redactions will obscure more than they reveal. This latest episode of political theater, complete with its Rick Astley soundtrack, does little to inspire confidence in transparency or accountability. Instead, it serves as a perfect example of how serious matters of public concern can be reduced to juvenile pranks by the very institutions tasked with investigating them. The whole debacle raises serious questions about the priorities of the GOP and their approach to handling sensitive investigations. When representatives choose to turn investigations into memes, it's not just a failed attempt at humor. It's a betrayal of their responsibility to the public and, more importantly, to the victims whose lives were forever altered by Epstein's crimes.
Oh, this is one of the most exciting moments of my life. Well,
Here it goes.
Oh, you're going to love this absolutely real news story from America's most watched cable news network. You know, the one that pulls in around 1.2 million viewers in prime time alone, with their monthly viewership reaching approximately 86 million Americans. Because nothing says legitimate journalism, quite like suggesting Democrats are orchestrating a massive cursive writing conspiracy to keep people from reading the Constitution. So picture this. Fox and Friends, weekend hosts, are discussing an Idaho bill mandating cursive education in elementary schools, when co-host Rachel Campos Duffy makes the shocking discovery that some of their younger producers can't write in cursive. This apparently earth-shattering revelation led to a fascinating discourse on the state of American education. And by fascinating, I mean it quickly devolved into conspiracy theory territory faster than you can say penmanship. The segment took an especially interesting turn when co-host Charlie Hurt shared what he called one of my favorite conspiracy theories, which he helpfully noted he kind of believes. According to this totally reasonable theory, Democrats are actively trying to prevent cursive education so people can't read the Constitution. Because apparently, in this version of reality, the Constitution is only accessible in its original cursive form, carefully guarded in a vault somewhere, with no printed or digital copies available anywhere in the known universe. Campos Duffy, demonstrating the kind of hard-hitting journalism Fox News is known for, responded to this theory with a deeply analytical, "That's a good one," because nothing says serious news like enthusiastically endorsing baseless conspiracies about handwriting and constitutional literacy. But wait, it gets better. Peter Doocy, not to be outdone, decided to turn this serious discussion about educational policy into a pitch for National Treasure 3, suggesting a plot where someone can't steal the Constitution because they can't read cursive. This is the quality content that keeps Fox News at the top of the cable news ratings, folks. The hosts also made sure to take a swipe at President Biden's handwriting, with Doocy pointing out that Biden, a Democrat, gasp, has bad cursive handwriting. This obviously crucial piece of political analysis was followed by Campos Duffy's excited proclamation about Donald Trump's signature, which apparently deserves its own exhibit in the Louvre. "Have you ever seen his signature?" she asked, while Charlie Hurt added the profound observation that Trump is old school. Let's put this in perspective. This is an actual news segment that aired on Fox News, where millions of Americans get their daily information. The same network that consistently ranks as the most watched cable news network in America thought it was newsworthy to suggest that Democrats are orchestrating a nationwide conspiracy to make the Constitution unreadable through their diabolical anti-cursive agenda. What's particularly fascinating about this whole segment is how it manages to completely ignore the fact that the Constitution is readily available in countless formats: printed, digital, audio, braille, and yes, even in Comic Sans for those really tough days. But acknowledging that would probably make for less exciting television than spinning tales about handwriting-based political conspiracies. And here's the kicker. This isn't some satirical sketch or parody news show. This is real programming that actually aired on Fox News, reaching millions of households across America. The same network that boasts about its massive monthly viewership decided that this was the kind of journalism their audience needed to see. Because apparently in 2024, suggesting that Democrats are waging a secret war on fancy handwriting to keep people from reading founding documents is considered legitimate news coverage. So the next time someone tells you they get their news from Fox, just remember, this is the kind of hard-hitting journalism they're consuming. And if that doesn't keep you up at night, well, maybe you need to work on your cursive. After all, you never know when you might need to read the Constitution in its original handwriting, right?
The inside. Dark forces behind the debate on teaching cursive in school that are leading to worldwide flooding. As you know, they don't teach cursive in school anymore, so children are using a lot less pencil lead on their paper. Less pencil lead on the paper. Lead weighs a lot, so that makes the paper lighter. They put that lighter paper in their backpack. Now their backpacks are lighter. They walk around. They're not getting as strong. They have to be driven more places. Furthermore, when you drive, they used to put lead in the gasoline. They put the gasoline in the car. Now the cars are lighter. You drive, you go across a bridge. There's a sign that says weight limit 10 tons. Now it can say weight limit 9 tons. That's one less character because the cars are lighter. So who benefits from teaching children blocky letters, driving more, and fewer characters on a sign? The people who paint the signs. The sign painters are making out like bandits. They're getting rich, and they're using that money to buy the lead. We're not putting in the gasoline, and we're not putting in pencils. They're going to gather that lead together, and it's going to create a gravity well to pull the moon closer to the Earth. That's going to cause tidal levels to go up all around the world. And then the sign painters can start selling signs that say, warning, tidal flooding area.
Ah, The eternal dance between Trump and Putin continues to evolve in ways that would make even the most seasoned diplomatic satirists' head spin. The Kremlin, displaying their characteristic subtlety, has just announced that America's foreign policy shift largely aligns with their vision, which is about as reassuring as finding out your home security system was designed by professional burglars. Let's take a stroll down memory lane, shall we? Remember when Trump first took office and Putin couldn't stop grinning? Well, history's repeating itself, but this time with extra theatrics. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, master of understatement, is practically doing cartwheels while explaining how the new administration is rapidly changing all foreign policy configurations. Translation: everything's going according to plan, comrades. Speaking of plans, Peskov's comment about there being a lot of damage to bilateral relations is a masterclass in diplomatic irony. It's like watching someone slash your tires and then sympathetically offering to call you a tow truck. But fear not. According to our friend at the Kremlin, as long as Putin and Trump maintain their special political will, everything can be fixed quite quick and successful. Because international relations are just that simple, right? Trump's efforts to rebuild ties with Russia since taking office have been about as subtle as a bear in a china shop. He's been reaching out to Putin directly, which at this point is practically tradition. But the real kicker: Trump sided with Moscow at the United Nations during a vote marking the 3rd anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Nothing says America first quite like putting Russia first. Meanwhile, in a plot twist that surprises absolutely no one who's been paying attention, and the Moscow Times is facing what they're calling unprecedented challenges. The Russian Prosecutor General's office has branded them as an undesirable organization because apparently telling the truth is now considered undesirable in Russia. Who would have thought? They've also been labeled as a foreign agent, which in Russia is about as welcome as a vegetarian at a barbecue competition. The Russian authorities claim the Moscow Times discredits the decisions of the Russian leadership. Well, if reporting facts discredits your decisions, maybe the problem isn't with the reporting. The newspaper's crime, trying to provide accurate, unbiased reporting on Russia. The audacity. The journalists are refusing to be silenced, which in today's Russia is either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Possibly both. This whole situation reads like a political thriller written by someone who thought House of Cards was too subtle. We've got the American president cozying up to Russia, Ukraine getting the cold shoulder, and independent journalism being criminalized faster than you can say fake news. And the Kremlin's celebrating, Ukraine's fuming, and journalists are basically playing a high-stakes game of truth or consequences, minus the truth option. In the grand scheme of things, this latest chapter in the Trump-Putin saga is just another reminder that reality continues to outpace satire in the race to absurdity. The only question remaining is whether we're watching history repeat itself or simply rewrite itself in real time, with a heavy dose of Russian influence and American acquiescence.
Body language in diplomacy. It's something we rarely think about. But last week's explosive meeting between Trump and Zelensky in the Oval Office showed us how a leader's smallest gestures can reveal more than their words ever could.
That's such a fascinating angle to explore, especially since these high-level diplomatic meetings are usually so carefully choreographed down to the tiniest detail.
You know what made this one particularly unique? The decision to skip having an interpreter. That's pretty rare for these meetings, and it definitely affected the whole dynamic, especially when you combine it with the stark visual contrast between them.
You mean Zelensky in his military fatigues versus Trump in his business suit?
Exactly. And the body language experts who analysed this meeting pointed out something really interesting. These two leaders were essentially performing in completely different mental spaces. Caroline Goyder, who trains political leaders, described Trump as being in a court scene, safe and comfortable in his domain.
While Zelensky was still very much in battlefield mode, right? Carrying that sense of urgency from a country at war.
Right, and you could see it in every movement. Zelensky had this dynamic, urgent energy, what the experts called warrior energy, while Trump was approaching it more like a performance, completely at ease in his home territory.
That reminds me. What did you make of that moment when someone questioned Zelensky about his choice of attire?
Oh, that was fascinating. Brian Glenn from Real America's Voice asked about the suit, and Trump actually jumped in to defend Zelensky, saying he was dressed beautifully. But watch how quickly that moment of apparent solidarity disappeared. Soon after, Trump was claiming Zelensky had no cards and was gambling with World War III.
The emotional whiplash in that room must have been intense. The body language expert Darren Stanton noted that Zelensky appeared frustrated from the very beginning.
And you could literally see that frustration build. There was this telling moment when Vance was speaking. Zelensky's posture shifted dramatically, from leaning forward to leaning back with crossed arms. The experts said this showed a dramatic change in inner emotion.
So how does this compare to Trump's typical interactions with other world leaders?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. The experts point out that Trump usually has this specific set of power moves. They call it the bone crusher handshake, the power pats, the chin thrust. But he uses these very selectively. With Putin, for instance, his body language is completely different.
Oh, really? How so?
The experts describe Trump's behaviour with Putin as showing deference to what they called a fellow silverback, another powerful older male figure. No bone crusher handshakes there. Instead, they tend to mirror each other's behaviour. It's quite different from how he interacts with most other leaders.
Let's talk about that moment when Zelensky corrected Trump about the year Russia invaded Ukraine. That seemed like a real turning point.
Absolutely crucial moment. Trump said 2015, Zelensky corrected him to 2014, and you could feel the tension spike. But here's what's interesting. Earlier that week, Macron had made a similar move when he corrected Trump about European aid to Ukraine, but he handled it completely differently.
The experts had something specific to say about Macron's approach, didn't they?
Yes, they noted that Macron has this unique ability to maintain what they called inner ease, when he put his hand on Trump's forearm while making that correction, which the experts called the non-verbal equivalent of saying, "Shut up, I'm talking." He somehow managed to do it without creating the same level of tension we saw in the Zelensky meeting.
That's quite a diplomatic skill, being able to disagree while maintaining control of the situation.
And it's fascinating how other world leaders typically handle these interactions. Many mirror Trump's body language and echo his rhetoric about tough negotiations. When Trump asked British Prime Minister Keir Starmer if Britain could defend itself against Russia, Starmer responded with what the experts called a masking smile.
Looking ahead, how do you think this might affect future diplomatic meetings?
Well, I think we'll see a split approach. Some leaders will double down on the traditional, careful flattery and mirroring, while others might feel emboldened to be more direct, especially if they have strong public support back home. But what this meeting really showed us is how international diplomacy works when the careful choreography falls away and raw political needs collide with personal dynamics.
That's such an important point about the choreography falling away. It's rare that we get to see these kinds of interactions in their raw form.
And that's exactly why this meeting was so revealing. When you strip away all the diplomatic niceties, what you're left with is the raw truth of body language, these unconscious signals that tell us more about power, respect, and international relations than any carefully worded statement ever could.
You know, maybe you should come visit Ukraine.
Hey! Don't you even dare. I have been to Ukraine on Google Maps. It's a mess. You think you're getting any money from us after your little outburst today? To quote my personal hero, Willy Wonka, you broke the rules! You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
And you know what? You're not even wearing a suit. It's disrespectful. Who shows up to the White House in a t-shirt and jeans like a garbage person?
Hi guys.
Elon, we love your outfit. Very official and respectful. And I love when he gets that chainsaw right next to my head.
Thanks. Donald, what are you doing in my office? You know I'm the president now, right? I'm kidding. Okay, maybe not. Awesome. I mean, you got to make a joke, you know. You got to really joke. Legalize comedy. Come on, legalize it.
I'm so comfortable with all of that. I really enjoy everything you're doing with Doge, Elon.
Well, they're saying I'm firing people with no cause. But I do have cause. It's cause I feel like it. Come on! Glitch! But
They're doing mass firings in the government. We love mass firings because you don't have to know what any of their names are or what exactly they do.
I mean, we're not going to get it perfect, you know, but we are firing the non-essential employees, like air traffic controllers.
Yes, and sure, some of the planes are going to land upside down, but then the luggage falls right into your lap and you're ready to go. It's official.
The legal landscape surrounding Sean Diddy Combs has grown increasingly complex with the recent withdrawal of defense attorney Anthony Rico from his high-profile criminal sex trafficking case. This development marks a significant shift in Combs' legal defense strategy, as Rico filed a motion Thursday in Manhattan federal court to step down from his role among the 6 attorneys representing the Bad Boy Records founder. The gravity of Rico's departure is particularly noteworthy given his emphatic statement in the federal court affidavit: "Under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs." While maintaining professional discretion, Rico's motion deliberately avoided detailed explanations to protect attorney-client privilege, though he assured the court there were sufficient reasons for his withdrawal request. This motion requires judicial approval, as courts must find adequate cause before allowing an attorney to withdraw from such a significant criminal case. The timing of this legal shakeup is crucial, as Combs faces serious criminal charges that could result in a mandatory minimum of 15 years behind bars, with the possibility of life imprisonment if convicted on the most severe charges. The 54-year-old music mogul has pleaded not guilty to allegations of forcing women into drugged-up sex shows, charges that have kept him behind bars without bail since his September arrest. Beyond the criminal proceedings, Combs confronts an overwhelming wave of civil litigation, with at least 40 lawsuits filed by individuals alleging various forms of sexual misconduct. These civil cases present a broad spectrum of accusations, including claims of drugging, sexual assault, and rape from both male and female plaintiffs. The scope and severity of these allegations have cast a long shadow over Combs' legacy in the entertainment industry. Recent developments in the civil cases have been particularly damaging to Combs' reputation. Among the most recent allegations is a lawsuit from an up-and-coming male artist who claims he was drugged and sexually assaulted at a Los Angeles nightclub. These accusations add another layer to the already complex legal challenges facing the music producer and entrepreneur. Combs has not remained passive in the face of these allegations. He has actively fought back against what he perceives as unfair treatment, claiming he's been singled out by what he characterizes as racist U.S. law enforcement. His legal team has framed the prosecution as a clear case of selective prosecution, suggesting racial motivations behind the charges. Furthermore, Combs has taken offensive legal action, including filing a lawsuit against NBC over a Peacock documentary that he claims spreads fresh lies and portrays him as a monster. The impact of Rico's withdrawal could be significant, though he has assured the court that his departure won't delay the trial, which is scheduled for May 5th. This assurance is based on the fact that Combs still retains 5 other attorneys of record, suggesting that while the defense team has lost a key member, it remains substantially staffed to handle the upcoming proceedings. The remaining legal team has maintained a strategic silence regarding Rico's withdrawal, declining to comment when approached for statements. Similarly, Rico himself has not responded to separate requests for comment, maintaining the same level of discretion evident in his court filing. This careful approach to public communications suggests a recognition of the sensitive nature of the cases and the potential impact of public statements on legal proceedings. These developments occur against the backdrop of Combs' significant influence in the music and entertainment industry. As one of hip-hop's most successful entrepreneurs, the outcome of these cases could have far-reaching implications for his business empire and cultural legacy. The allegations have already begun to affect his public image and business relationships, demonstrating how legal challenges of this magnitude can impact even the most established industry figures. The complexity of Combs' legal situation is further complicated by the variety and severity of the civil suits filed against him. These cases include particularly disturbing allegations, including one involving a 10-year-old boy, which has added another dimension to the public's perception of the cases. Throughout all these developments, Combs has consistently maintained his innocence, though the mounting number of accusations and the recent withdrawal of his attorney have created additional challenges for his defense. The coming months will be crucial for Combs' legal team as they prepare for the May trial date, while managing multiple civil suits and the public relations aspects of these cases. The outcome of these proceedings could not only determine Combs's personal freedom, but also shape the future of his extensive business interests and his place in entertainment history. As these cases progress, they continue to draw significant public attention, contributing to broader discussions about accountability, power dynamics, and justice in the entertainment industry.
Do you understand how bad of a person you have to be for your lawyer who's been going to school for this all of his life, practices for this moment to where he can get these high-profile cases, gets paid millions of dollars to tell you under no circumstances can I continue because these charges are too crazy? He prepared this his whole life and he still couldn't continue. Nigga, you fucked up so bad, this lawyer think he finna be guilty by association. Y'all gotta understand, under no circumstances, that means no bread, no loyalty, no nothing. It does not matter what he gives him, he's not being a lawyer for him. Lawyer was so scared, he said even God wouldn't defend him. How was you traumatizing a high-profile case lawyer? And I don't even want to tell you what they seen, but they seen some shit. And trust me, lawyers defend the most craziest stuff, like stuff you couldn't even imagine. But Diddy, you are doing worse than people that have done war crimes. Like, this lawyer has defended every and anybody you can think of. And Diddy is where he crossed the line. Diddy, you gotta be the death.
While Trump has signed executive orders proclaiming there are only two biological sexes, it is important to review how the concept of gender and identity has evolved over time. Today we're exploring how ancient texts might help us understand those evolving concepts.
That's such a fascinating perspective, looking at how ancient societies dealt with concepts we're still trying to fully understand today.
You know what really caught my attention in researching this? The way Jesus himself broke down the concept of eunuchs into three distinct categories in Matthew 19:12. We're talking about a level of nuance that many people might not expect from a 2,000-year-old text.
Could you walk us through those three categories?
Well, the first category Jesus mentioned was those who were born that way from their mother's womb, which some scholars interpret as referring to what we might now call intersex individuals. Then there were those who were made eunuchs by men, which was often done for social and political reasons, particularly in royal courts.
And the third category was quite different, wasn't it? Something more metaphorical?
Exactly right. Jesus spoke of those who made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. This was referring to people who chose celibacy for spiritual reasons. But what's fascinating is how it acknowledges that someone could voluntarily step outside traditional gender roles and expectations, as someone who identifies as asexual.
That reminds me of something I read about the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts. Here was someone who held incredible power, managing the queen's treasury, yet potentially faced significant social marginalization.
Oh, that's such an important example. And what makes it even more significant is that this story appears at a crucial moment in early Christianity. Here was someone who might have been excluded from other religious traditions, but instead becomes one of the first recorded Gentile converts.
Well, speaking of acceptance, could you tell us more about how eunuchs were viewed in different ancient societies? I understand their roles varied quite a bit.
So in many ancient courts, eunuchs held positions of remarkable influence. Take Haggai from the Book of Esther. He was a trusted advisor in the Persian king's court who played a crucial role in Esther becoming queen. And in Babylonian society, we see Daniel and his friends potentially serving among the eunuchs, though the text isn't explicit about their status.
It's interesting how their perceived otherness actually gave them unique access and privileges in some ways.
Right. They could move between male and female spaces in ways others couldn't. They were often trusted with sensitive diplomatic missions, treasury management, and even military leadership. In fact, some of the most powerful administrators in ancient China were eunuchs.
That makes me think about how societies throughout history have created specific roles for people who didn't fit into traditional gender categories.
Exactly, like the Hijras in South Asia or Two-Spirit people in Native American cultures. These weren't just modern concepts with ancient parallels. They were established, respected social roles that served specific functions in their societies.
So what you're saying is that the complexity of gender identity isn't new. We're just developing new language to describe it?
Well, that's part of it, but I think it goes deeper. When we look at Isaiah 56:3-5, we see this beautiful promise that eunuchs will have a place of honor in God's kingdom. This was revolutionary for its time, a direct challenge to the idea that someone's worth was tied to their ability to fit into traditional gender roles.
That must have been incredibly meaningful for people who felt excluded from religious and social life.
You know what's fascinating? The way these ancient texts often dealt with questions of identity and belonging in surprisingly sophisticated ways. Like when the Ethiopian eunuch asks Philip, "What prevents me from being baptized?" It's really a profound question about who gets to belong in a religious community.
That really resonates with modern discussions about inclusion and acceptance, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and it's why we have to be careful about how we interpret these texts. While it's tempting to map our modern understanding of gender identity onto these ancient accounts, we need to remember that they understood these experiences through a very different cultural lens.
Though, couldn't we argue that the underlying human experiences haven't changed, even if our language for describing them has?
That's precisely the point. And it's why these ancient texts can still offer valuable insights into modern discussions about gender and identity. They remind us that these questions of belonging, identity, and acceptance have always been part of the human experience.
So, what lessons can we take from this historical perspective to inform current conversations about gender identity?
Well, I think one key lesson is that societies have always found ways to recognize and accommodate gender complexity, even if they didn't have our modern terminology. Another is that the most enlightened responses to these questions have consistently been those emphasizing inclusion rather than exclusion.
That's such an important point. The idea that inclusion and acceptance aren't modern inventions, but have historical precedent.
And looking forward, I think these ancient texts can help us navigate modern conversations about gender and identity. Not because they had all the answers, but because they show us that these questions are fundamental to human experience.
So in essence, we're not really creating new categories so much as finding better ways to recognize and talk about what has always existed?
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole discussion so fascinating. We're part of a very long conversation about human identity and experience, one that stretches back through history and across cultures. The language may change, but the underlying human need for understanding and acceptance remains constant.
That's really powerful. The idea that we're not starting from scratch, but building on centuries of human understanding and experience.
And perhaps that's the most valuable insight we can take from all this, that while our frameworks for understanding gender and identity continue to evolve, the fundamental human experiences they describe have always been with us. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about finding better ways to understand and talk about what has always been part of the human experience.
On the inside. Hey, I just want to make sure I was all caught up. So trans women are so strong and powerful that we have to kick them out of women's sports, but they're also so weak and detrimental to our military that we have to kick them out of there as well, right?
Do you ever get the feeling that everything in America is completely screwed? Listen, we're all exhausted. We're all barely hanging on. That's just what happens when you see and hear too much. But remember one thing, this isn't the end. It can't be. I mean, this endless grind, the corporate doublespeak, the debt, the fear of one bad day sending it all crashing down. This has to be rock bottom, right? And surviving it, pushing through it, that's the whole point. Quitting won't make you free. Living will. Fighting will. So hold the line. Hold yourself together. I get the cynicism, the burnout. But why am I here, saying this? And why are you still listening? Because it's time. It starts with us. Not the politicians, the executives, the talking heads. United States. The ones who need change the most. I have to believe, down to my bones, that the world is starving for something real. If you listen, you can hear it everywhere. And maybe, just maybe, the same revolution I've been aching for has already begun. With our symphony of thoughts,